Hey, greetings YouTube. Welcome to Performance Reviews. We're going to put this vintage Sanitaire back together, and I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks and little things that you do when you do a tune-up that I think are kind of lost. So, I think the first thing is just a little bit of grease. You don't want very much. This is enough for both sides. In and around those things. And this will help reduce some rattling and noise and all sorts of things like that. It's probably really the only place we're going to put grease. Now, if these things are rattling, there's a couple of things that can be done. You want to tighten the screws up, that's number one, but they always rattle a little bit. Second here. So a little drop of silicone, so it can still be removed, but just absorbs the rattle, and even if it comes unglued from that silicone, it just takes the rattle out. It's just a nice little thing to do. The next thing is you want to adjust the gapping on these screws. You don't want them super tight, but you want to take the gap out of that, if you guys can see that. And by doing that, you just, again, this changes the whole height adjustment. So that is how we tune this, and how we can take a little bit of the play out of this. And again, if you do it too much, things don't work. So you got to just, again, very carefully tune this. Back up a little bit. And there we go. So that's been adjusted on there. So before we can put the motor back in, we need to put the handle on and do all that. Well, you can do it with the motor in, but it's a hell of a lot harder. I would rather not go through that bullshit, so yeah, there's that. I'm probably gonna get demonetized now for cursing because Google. I guess I should take this time to mention that I only make videos for adults. I'm not making videos for anybody under the age of 18, so just keep that in mind. And if you are of parents who are letting you run around unsupervised on the internet, keep that to yourself. I don't want to know about that. Put those on. This is part that is. Now you can see why I suggested that you have this the motor out, why I do this now, because we're having to hold this in and get this part done. Get the screw on here. Kind of doing this ass backwards. Usually do it the other side. So you only want to tighten one of these. No, not even tighten that all the way. I'll show you that here right now. So now you got a whole bunch of mystery screws in here. And I will tell you, there are shorter ones. The shorter ones, like these, go right here. And the other short one goes right here. Just a heads up. So we're going to put these in. on here. Again, torque all of that. And that's on there. Now we gotta put the height adjustments back. And this is a good time to scrub the height adjustment if you haven't scrubbed it. So your height adjustment goes there. Then the height adjustment spring goes on there as well. So, if you have a spring tool, this would be something that's handy for a spring tool. If you don't have a spring tool, vice grips will work, or needle nose pliers, depending on whatever's handy. So we're going to pull this, and you can actually put the spring on. There's a lot of different places you can technically put the spring, but that's where I'm putting it. And then I'll just put a drop of oil on the spring as well. Again, this is all superficial stuff. Now this play, that's normal. You can see that play is in the lockup. I'm going to zoom in there and show that play. Even if I hold up on this mechanism, there's play. So there's your locking mechanism. So there's that part of the Sanitaire. So now let's get to pulling the gasket off, because that one's fooched. And this part is where a lot of people struggle when they haven't done a few of these. Now this is an early glass composite on here. Zoom out. And this early glass composite is really brittle. So a lot of people will clamp things on here, do all sorts of crazy things trying to put this gasket on. So just keep in mind, don't do that. This thing was brittle at one point. You know, the dishwasher didn't clean that as well as I had hoped. But, check the base assembly real quick on this one and the other one. I'm going to make sure one of these is in a smaller fan unit. No, they are the same. There was a short fan that they made as well. And I happened to just notice there was one on my bench, but that could have been, I have 3 of these machines I'm working on right now. So I think that goes to the 3rd one. So the fan, again, you want to make sure there's nothing under here. You want to wiggle this bottom bearing plate, that's good. Now if you're so inclined, you could put grease on here and squirt grease in there. I'm not going to do that. Just want to make sure that fiber washer sits on there all right. And the new fiber washer, or the other fiber washer, you're just going to sit that on top. Put that on. And then we're just going to give that a little bit of love. That goes on there like that. Alright, so now I've got the gasket. And the key to starting the gasket is use this corner right here. That's where you want to do it. You want on that corner, you want to make sure it's flat when you're done. And again, this gasket's fragile. It is made out of only the finest Chinesium around. Alright. This one's being a little bit dramatic. You used to be able to order from Perfect or Nationwide this it was like a heavy duty gasket that was a really nice material, and they typically lasted a lot longer, but they stopped doing that, so those went away. Use something super heavy duty. So now you want to put this on. Don't bump the gasket, like so. Alright, so that goes on there. Now you're going to have 4 screws. 3 of them are the same, 1 of them is shorter. That guy, like I stated earlier, short guy goes right there. Long guys go there, and this guy right here, this guy, that goes there. Well, that was fun. My camera overheated. We're gonna put the one last short one. It's gonna go right there. And I will explain wire management here in a minute. There'll be some things that we can do that will keep this from overheating or getting really nasty. The other thing that's easy to miss is this thing. This is what holds the switch in place. And if you change the switch, you got to make sure you don't throw out the metal part. So that's what holds the switch in place on that side. And so what is missing from this Sanitaire is there should be a wire management up here. And I suspect whoever worked on this last got rid of it. Now there's also couple other no-nos I noticed on here is wire nuts. On a Sanitaire especially, but really at any time, they should be secured with electrical tape. This acts as like a lock tie. So I'm just going to secure that real quick. There is a place right here to zip tie all this together, and that was taken off on this machine at some point. You can see where that got loose on there. So all that well, I thought I had a zip tie handy. I don't, but that's what goes there. The last thing on this one, let's blow it off. So we had one of these right here, and that is exclusive to this model. So we're going to put that right there. Next, we're going to put the light bulb in, which goes right there. And now we're going to put the top on. And again, it's not going to hurt anything if you leave these loose. If you want to tie them up, you can. I don't have a zip tie that's particularly handy. Okay, so there's the cardboard piece that needed to go here. Just put that on, and I tied all the stuff properly to the side. Now let's put the lid on, and we'll be cleaning things up a little bit lower later. Hope you guys can see what we're doing. Alright. You have 2 black screws left, the color of the lid. with this. Now if it's chrome top, that's a whole nother story, another machine, but with this, for some reason these are not Torx, these are Phillips. Got a new belt, got the brush roller, which has some schmutz on it. Get rid of that. There's like a label on here from whoever bought a new brush roller. So yeah, you can see where that was. And now, if you're not familiar, there's a diagram right here that shows you how that belt goes on. So should be no questions about that. I have no idea why people struggle with this, but people really struggle with this, and I see all sorts of people put these things on backwards. The lower part goes in the groove. There should not be two grooves. Again, follow the diagram, stretch out, just like so. This is nothing right now. It is dead. Is this my... Hold up. Sorry, again, I have to check to make sure I'm keeping them consistent between the three machines. I can see a small thing I missed there. Alright. So that goes up there like that. Now before I put the bag on and stuff, we gotta clean out the rest. I will say when I adjusted the height adjustment, it did raise it up quite a bit, even on low. So we might have to go remove that. Again, I keep advocating rubber gloves. For this part. So let's clean up the lid and see how that turns out. A lot of different types of paint on this one. This is after it went through the dishwasher. It's still got a lot of stuff on it. There's just a lot of paint marks on this one. It's had a hard life. So after that's been done, you gotta wipe off all the excess scratch marks and stuff with this all the excess paint marks, because the paint basically liquefies on here and it looks dull because of that, not because I've scratched it with this Scotch-Brite. Now, you know, for being a 2000, when this machine was made, almost 20 years ago, it looks older than that even. And I think that was kind of always the problem with Sanitaires. They always looked older than they were, because they were always old designs. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of this around here, make sure nothing is around this, and I'll explain that here. I will also explain this. So this gasket here is the old style, and there would be a new style gasket flat that goes on here. Now, I cannot even begin to justify the price of those and ordering those. They're like $2 or $3 now, and I just don't want to spend the money on this particular one. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into silicone Sally and put a little bit of silicone on there as well. And that will actually seal up better than the original seal, and doesn't cost quite as much. And I used to always just do this to every machine that came in the shop as part of the tune-up. Then I kind of stopped doing it. Just make everything even. Kind of like a Kirby in that way. You need to do both of them before you tighten them. And that needs to actually go up just a little bit with the torque. Then you want to just take something, just make sure there's no excess. Now's a good time to put the rest of the bag on. Clip that up. Yep, I did an amateur mistake. You can see that it caught the bumper. So we are going to reverse this. Settle the bumper in its rightful place, away from the silicone. This is, again, this is just one of the quirks of this machine, that it's real easy to do little things like this when you're doing this machine. Oh God, I haven't pinched a bumper in a long time. So let's put that on now. Correct. Wipe that off the bumper, and yep, that's how it came from the factory. Let's see where I pinched, could have pinched the bumper. I'm sorry, it's hard to get that camera angle. Now there's a couple other things that are weird about this machine. So I think this is one of the machines that gives bag machines a bad name, because the bag is not particularly easy to change, and it's super weird. Alright, I'm going to show you the proper way to change the F&G bag. Now I've got a Koblenz bag, green label's certified silver. It's a really high filtration HEPA bag. And this is going to go on there. There are numerous HEPA bags. I suggest you use them. I would kind of stay away from the paper bags if you can. So bring the spring all the way down on here. And then what you're supposed to do is supposed to tuck this all the way like that and roll up the spring. Then you roll the spring all the way up like so. So that's technically how you're supposed to have that. And then if it was a stock bag, there'd be a zipper that faces the zipper. One little thing about the zipper is these zippers can be hard to zip. A little drop of tripod in the zipper can make that zipper last a long time. So that is how we do that.